Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
No, kill that. All right, today is Monday, October 9th, 2023. Coming up on this special edition of Roland Martin Unfiltered, we are here in Virginia talking about the upcoming election. Over the next 2 hours, we'll talk to candidates who are running for the House. We'll speak to the Virginia House Minority Leader as well to talk about what will happen when it comes to power in this state if the state house flips. And so we'll break all this down. It's coming up next right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. It's time to bring the funk. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time. And it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best. You know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, we are here in Virginia Beach, Virginia for Our Vote Town Hall, partnering with the Virginia Democratic Party here. Folks, it is Election Day next month, and of course in this state, it is going to play a huge role in terms of who controls the state house. Who controls the state house means who controls resources, who controls what bills get passed. And so our focus is on that, and also what our power is, especially when it comes to voting. We have seen how critical African-American votes have played all across this country. African Americans make up about 20+% of the vote in this state, but the question is not the percentage of the vote, what is the turnout? You've heard me say numerous times on this show, when we increase our numbers, when we maximize our power, we can literally change elections all across this country. So to kick this thing off, I want to bring up the House Minority Leader of Virginia, Representative Don Scott. Don, come on up. Don and I have some history, of course. Both of us are Texas A&M graduates. We also pledged Alpha Phi Alpha there, but he is way, way older than me.
Watch it.
You pledged way, you on the Alpha line, way, way older than me. I came a lot later. Glad to be here. Glad to see you here. So first of all, I'm always talking about. Let's talk about power. We talk about power in this state. Glenn Youngkin, Republican, is the governor. And so what does it look like in terms of on the House side and the Senate side in terms of who controls the legislature in this state?
So thank you, first of all, for being here. We are so pleased to have you here in Virginia Beach. Who controls the legislature? In the Virginia of the legislature, and the Democrats have a 22-18 majority. However, in the House of Delegates, the Republicans have a majority, 52-48. There are 100 members. So that's where the balance stands right now. And of course, we have a very, 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 very MAGA Republican governor.
Now, you look at a lot of states out there where you have Republicans who control a number of House, Senate, majority. There are some places where Democrats control all three branches. So this is really one of the few places where you have a split in terms of Republicans and Democrats controlling governor's mansion and the legislature.
Oh, absolutely. And in the House of Delegates where I serve, the Republicans have had the majority for 22 of the last 24 years. So they've been really running the gamut for a long time. So a lot of the issues and things that we see today around underfunding public schools, we can put it at the feet of the Republican Party because they have had the purse strings. And when you talk about legislation, you talk about resources, you talk about resource allocation, then you talk about the parties in control. So if we get the majority, we have an opportunity to make some historic investments.
And on that point, I mean, so many people, when I talk to folks all across this country, what the African Americans often say is we have not seen the results of our labor in terms of voting. In this particular state here, you've seen battles over the Confederacy. Being a native of Texas, I can tell you it still despises me when I have to drive along Jeff Davidson Highway. And so, but when you look at, of course, a few years ago, what happened in Charlottesville, so many different things along those lines, power is determined by those who are in control.
Absolutely. I mean, if you don't vote, you voted by not voting because you've given away your voice to somebody else. And so we have a responsibility to participate. I tell these kids all the time, they're like, oh, they all the same. No, we're not. It's a big difference. There's some things that want to do things for you to make things better, and there's some people that want to do things against you to make things worse. And we need to pay attention to that. And some people that may won't do anything, and sometimes not doing anything is okay because some of these people do want to do things to you. But I think we have an opportunity, an historic opportunity here to make sure that we fund our public education, make sure that we get these guns off the street. We have a gun violence epidemic here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we have Republicans that want to take us backwards on gun violence. We passed a bill to require folks who had mental health issues where we could get a civil case called red flag laws to go in and remove those guns. The Republicans tried to repeal that. We raised the minimum wage. The Republicans tried to repeal that. Don't even get me started on what they want to do with women's reproductive health care. They want to tell women what to do with their own bodies. I never thought that I would live in a world where my 88-year-old mother will have more rights than my 14-year-old daughter. And we need to do something about that. We need everybody now to step up right now because they will take us backwards. They've proven that.
You talked about, again, purse strings. You talked about you talked about guns. Before we started, the pastor of this church talked about this being the home of Ryan Keith Cox, who was one of the victims of a mass shooting here in Virginia. The family, they've been asking for the legislature to allocate some $40 million to those families. If Democrats take over the House, will that happen?
What I will say is this. We have Kelly Convirs-Fowler here. Kelly, stand up. Where's Kelly go? Where'd she go? Oh, Kelly behind me? Oh, she went behind me. Okay. Well, Kelly has been fighting for this since she's been in the legislature. She represents Virginia Beach. She has been fighting to make sure that we hold the legislature and the state accountable to make sure that we get what we need to these families. So I'm confident if we get the majority, Kelly will lead the way on that issue.
So that's a yes?
Yeah. I think I said Kelly would need to go to that issue.
Yeah, that's a lot of words. I like that little short 3-letter word. Yes is real definitive, even though it's 3 letters.
So yes, we've put things in the budget right now to be able to help those families, and I think we'll continue to do that. We just passed the budget to be able to help those families, and I think we have the resources in there now to do that, and we'll be able to continue to follow that.
You talked about education funding, but we also continue to see this battle over the states when it comes, all across this country when it comes to books, what books should be taught. When you look at this constant attack on DEI, this phantom attack on critical race theory, we saw this play out in that election and later Youngkin becoming governor. And so speak to those issues, because, again, those are pressing cultural buttons, and frankly, it's ticking off a whole lot of black folks and non-white folks when we see this attack, because many see this as an attack on blackness.
Well, it's an attack on the progress that we've made. There's no doubt about it. There are people who want to take us backwards. That is their theme. Anytime you have a governor who comes in and says that Martin Luther King Jr. is too controversial to teach our kids, we have a problem. He took the teaching about Martin Luther King and history out of the K-8 education. We had to protest and fight to get it put back in. So we already know what they want to do. Anything related to teaching black history in a way that is meaningful and substantive, they want to remove it. They want to take us backwards. What I think they don't understand is that there is a huge majority of white people that want to know that history. They always assume that white people will feel bad and side with the slave holders as opposed to siding with those who were for freedom, because there were many white Americans who were also fighting for freedom, so they just assume those children can also relate to those folks. So we need people to start teaching the full gamut of history. We need to make sure that we also are doing everything in our power to continue to increase diversity, equity, and inclusion. The governor had an African-American man who used to manage a checked of what he called diversity and opportunity and inclusion. He changed the name, took out equity, and then that man said DEI is dead. And we said, you got to be nuts, because we passed legislation mandating a DEI officer in the legislation. So what the Attorney General did was just simply said the governor left that position blank and he created this new slot. But they've not done anything to advance that, while at the same time going backwards on teaching history, on making these fake cultural wars on our children, by having teacher tip lines where they turn parents against teachers, children snitching, teacher snitch lines, having children snitching on their teachers in the classroom. It all does to undermine public education, to undermine parents' confidence in public education. And my mother knew this. She had 6 kids and she was single. And she knew that the path to the American dream led through a classroom. It led through a book. And we know that there are people who are trying to take us back, ban books on our history. So we're going to continue to fight the governor on all of that.
A couple more questions before we go to a break. First off, I talk a lot on my show. You can ask the folks at PepsiCo right now, because I've been kicking they behind the last several days. And that is when it comes to contracts, when it comes to the opportunity. The reality is, when you look at a lot of states across this country, even the federal government, federally, there are $560 billion spent on federal contracts. African Americans get 1.67%. In my business, media, $322 billion spent. Is anywhere from 0.5 to 1%. And so if Democrats are able to control the House and the Senate, what do you say to these African-American business owners in this state, that there are going to be increased economic opportunities for them to be able to grow their businesses, and then also that provides economic opportunities for African-Americans and others in the state?
Well, I'll say this. The Virginia Legislative Black Caucus is about 20-some-odd members of us. We're guaranteed to go to 30 members. Out of 100 members, 140 will be at 30. We're fighting for equality at the table. We're fighting for equity, and we know we can do better. It's shameful, the work that we've done so far. Just to ask for a study to be done to demonstrate the disparities, we have to fight for those disparity studies. So we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to press forward. Now, what I can tell you, since I've been the leader of the House Democratic Caucus, I've made sure that we've engaged black contractors. We did an RFP process to make sure that we're not only spending dollars with the vendors and competitors that have been working with us, that we're bringing new people to the table. As the leader of the House Democratic Caucus, my first job was I kind of made everybody reapply for their jobs and started all over. And part of me doing that is I hired for the first time ever, I hired a black female finance director. Y'all can clap. You got to always track the money. And wave your hand back there, Morgan. I hired a black female Howard University graduate to be our communications director. So it's not because they're black that they're in those roles. It's because they're excellent. They're excellent. And we got to stop saying that black equals somehow they can't do the job. Black equals get the people who are qualified and they're excellent. These people are excellent, and that's why we brought them on.
Last question for you. When you look at poll numbers, when you look at, and again, I've had the conversations across the country. There is a lot of voter apathy. When you look at that sort of a depressed view. Who's not here, someone who's African American or not, and they're saying, you know what, I just don't feel it. I'm not excited. I don't really see how this is going to impact or improve my life. What do you say to them why they need to make sure their ballot is cast?
You need to go out and vote, because if you don't, the after effects will be devastating. Right now, if you believe that every person that works hard, every hard-working Virginian deserves an opportunity, economic opportunity, deserves an opportunity for the American dream, deserves to be safe in their homes from gun violence, deserves to have every child have an opportunity at a world-class education. You have to go out and vote. I'm a child, as I said, single mom, 6 kids. She knew what it took to go out there. And I've had adversity in my life. And we need politicians that understand human beings that have had adversity. And I'm asking each and every person, come out and vote like your life depends on it, because it does. We've said that every election matters. If you're watching national politics right now, it's chaos up there in the House. With the MAGA Republicans in control, they're causing chaos. We need to bring back common decency, common sense values, and I'm hoping that every person, young or old, will come out and vote.
So last day to register to vote?
October 16th. And people are voting right now. We started early voting September 22nd. You can vote tomorrow. Raise your hand if you voted already. All right, y'all are super. Okay, this is a great group. We need to go and vote. You can vote every day from now until the Saturday before election. All right?
So be sure to bring friends out and call folks and let them know. Representative Don Scott, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, going to go to a break. We're going to come back. We'll talk with one of our first candidate who's running for the Virginia House. We come back right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. If you don't live in Virginia, be sure to check your state to see what the deadline is for you to first register. We can talk about voting, but you can't vote unless you're actually registered. And so, and the second thing, y'all have heard me say this all the time, also check your status. We see what happened. First of all, we saw what happened in this state when it came to folks playing around with the voter rolls. And so I always tell you, check your status and do what I do in Texas. I register every single year. So they ain't going to mess around trying to change my stuff. Because, look, the application is free. I'm going to do it every single year. That's what Mama and Daddy taught me. And that's why they've been running election polls for about 30-plus years. And so please do that. All right, folks, we'll be right back from New Hope Baptist Church in Virginia Beach, Virginia, right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, you're going to learn about the silver tsunami, which means that 1 million people are turning 65 every day, and they're going to need some kind of care. You're going to meet two sisters whose situation with their own family led them to start a business in this industry, and now they're showing others.
This is our passion, our mission, our purpose, our ministry.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Carl Payne pretending to be Roland Martin. Holla!
You ain't got to wear black and gold every damn place, okay? Ooh, I'm an alpha, yay. All right, you're 58 years old. It's over.
And you are now watching
Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
Uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable.
All right, folks, welcome back to New Hope Baptist Church here in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Glad to be here. When Delegate Scott, when he hit me up, he said, hey, would you mind partnering with us to do this? I said, sure, because we understand the importance of talking to candidates, speaking to issues. We do this. We've done this all across the country, and so we're glad to do it here in Virginia. And, you know, one of the things that also happens, y'all, look, I've been covering politics since I was in college, so this is the first time. And so the Republican trackers, wave your hand. I know y'all here. I know how that game works. So if y'all here, just go ahead and wave your hand. I'll even come talk to you. So let's not act like you're not sitting in the audience recording all of this here. And I can save you some time. If you want the video to this, simply go to the Black Star Network. You can download the app. We on Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, and you can tell all your friends. They can also watch us on Amazon News, on Amazon Fire. They can catch us now on Freevee, Prime Video, as well as Plex TV, just in case your Republican friends are watching. And again, and if the Republicans in Virginia, if y'all want to come talk to a black-owned network, give me a call. I'll be happy to have y'all candidates on the show. I can't say how it's going to end up if you're not answering the right questions, but feel free to give me a call. Send that back to Governor Youngkin. All right, folks, I want to bring up, I tell y'all, I ain't scared of nobody, because there's one thing that I believe in is speaking to the issues that matter to us. And when I hear these folks running around trying to quote Dr. King, ain't never read a full speech of Dr. King. They love talking all that sort of stuff, but I want to hear them talk about some real stuff, some substantive stuff. And I'll say this to any Republican in this state: you cannot represent this state if you're afraid to come talk to black people. And when you are an elected official and statewide, you represent all Virginians, not just those that voted for you. And so some folk might want to remember that. So y'all write that down, trackers. All right, folks, let's bring out the first person up. Let's see, House 95, Delegate Kelly Convirs-Fowler. Kelly, come on out. She's a mother of 3 children, a former teacher, an incumbent Democrat, having been elected in 2018. Right, there you go. Her husband is a former law enforcement officer, is currently serving as a first responder, working as a dispatcher. She, of course, is from here also. Has been very much involved and believes in voting rights as well. But I want to start, though, not on voting rights. Just lower that microphone just a little bit there. That way, you can lower right there on the other side. There you go. There you go. Now low. You got it? Okay, all right. Here's the first thing. Look, how long were you a teacher?
I was a teacher for 6 years.
What do you make of this constant attack on teachers, largely by folks on the right who act as if teachers are the enemy somehow?
Well, being a teacher, a prior teacher in Norfolk and Virginia Beach, teaching ranges from 3rd grade to 5th grade, and then also being a parent of 3 children in the public school system, I'd have to say that all the rhetoric around education is really becoming extremely detrimental to our public education system. I believe that the goal is not to enhance education, but it is to get public dollars into private schools. And that is not going to help our communities. It's not going to help keep our public school system active.
We saw, and I live in Northern Virginia, we saw all the craziness in leading up to the midterm elections, where you had folks showing up in massive numbers talking about critical race theory being taught in schools, when all those folks couldn't even define critical race theory. And you literally had superintendents sitting there going, nope, that's not true, that's not true, and folks were not believing it. And again, so what you have is you have this narrative being set, right-wing television, right-wing radio, to press the buttons of folks when that's not what's actually happening in schools. And unfortunately, when you start looking at test scores or looking at achievement, folks are not actually learning what they need to learn, and this fight against education doesn't help.
No, absolutely. It does not help. It actually distracts from the issue, which is we need to look at the bigger picture from all the issues from the pandemic that occurred. We need to look at it holistically, not just throw money at it to bring kids up 1 year. We actually need long-term solutions in Virginia. So that's something that I'll be working on this upcoming session with my colleagues that will be joining me in the House. And education, just when people talk about parents' rights in education, I'm a parent. And as a teacher, I can say that there's never been an issue. Parents are involved to the extent they want to be involved. We're a public school system. We're open to parents, and parents are involved. So the rhetoric is really it harms the entire public school system, which benefits the entire community.
Look, both of my parents were very involved. All my teachers knew their name. All of them. My dad used to ask for the corporal punishment slip. I wasn't like, bring it home, give it to your parents. He's like, where's the sheet of paper? So they all knew. But when you see, there's a difference between parental involvement in their child's education, and then you got parents trying to teach. That's a different, because that's not what your role is. Educators still have a role. That's like somebody sitting here saying, well, I just want to walk on your set and lead your show. No, you can sit out there in the audience. But again, so you have this battle that's going on, and look at the numbers. We are seeing teacher shortages all across this country. Teachers are being underfunded, and so it seems that the focus is on the wrong thing when it comes to what's happening with education.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah.
Y'all clap on that.
Yeah, we need to. I think that their efforts to defund the public school system are obvious, but their messaging on parents' rights, of course, is... Wait
a minute. You said that they're trying to defund schools? I thought they didn't like the word defund.
They don't like the word defund, but that's exactly what they're trying to do.
Gotcha.
They're trying to defund, send all of our public school money to private schools, which public schools in concept and theory help the entire community. They're not meant for each one individual person or each one individual child. It's meant to benefit the entire community. Just like roads, we don't drive on all the roads, but our taxes go to make all the roads and repair the roads so we can drive on them if we need to. So again, this is a matter of community services and taking those away from communities that are in need and putting that money into lab schools, charter schools. Any public money going to private schools is public money, and public education being devalued.
Well, it's interesting, like right now in Texas, they're having the battle. The governor's called a special session because he wants to do that. And I had some folks who came to me, and they said, well, I don't understand. You supported school choice. I said, still do. They said, you supported vouchers. I said, still do. I said, but I want to help the worst of the worst schools and students. I said, and I know fraudulent scams when I see them. And I said, what Governor Abbott is trying to do in Texas, I said, that's a fraudulent scam that is not helping those students who are going to bad schools that are being insufficiently funded. And I said, so I will never support fraudulent scams when it comes to use of taxpayer money for education. You mentioned defund, and we hear a lot of attacks on Democrats when it comes to the police. How does that make you feel as the wife of a former law enforcement officer, this notion that Democrats don't support law enforcement? You look at President Biden and the budget that was passed, massive billions of dollars that were increased that went to police departments all of this country. That just destroyed the Republican narrative that Democrats are not funding law enforcement.
It's absolutely a false narrative. And prime example is my husband being a law enforcement officer. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. You can support community efforts and community policing, but you can also repel the idea that we're not trying to defund them. We're trying to actually fund them more. Make sure that we have the proper training in place, proper training with bias, proper training in general for law enforcement officers, but they don't have that right now. So if we put money into the right places, if we elect the right people, we're going to get our voting rights that are going to not only, they're going to expand, we're going to maintain our voting rights, and we're going to be able to maintain that level of support for our education and our criminal justice system.
But on that thing, and I've said this on my show numerous times, and it's amazing how I've never heard conservatives who claim to be fiscal conservatives, they say nothing about the millions upon millions that cities are having to pay out for police cases. So I would think that if you were a fiscal conservative, you would be standing with folks who don't like police brutality and say we shouldn't be spending millions of dollars on these police settlements.
Oh, absolutely. I think that there's a disconnect there with the message.
I'm sure their tracker is writing that one down. Yeah. But again, I would really love to see them standing up there, because all across this country, we're now approaching, again, billions of dollars every year on $3 million, $4 million, $8 million, $20, $40 million that cities, taxpayers are having to pay when that money could be spent on services helping residents.
Of course. I think that there's a balanced and priority approach, and only thing that's going to help our priorities get to where they need them is electing people who actually will represent us. And I think if we actually listen and we look past the rhetoric and we encourage others to look past the rhetoric, we will see who are the ones that are actually speaking and working on our behalf and trying to expand our voting rights, protect all of our rights, especially those as women that we need to protect, and do all those things, at least in Virginia. Virginia is the bellwether state right now, so everyone is looking, and we need to make sure that we have true representation.
Let's get to voting. That is obviously a huge issue. You are the chief co-patron of the state's Voting Rights Act. And we're experiencing now, people right now, thrown off the rolls, and this explanation given is pretty weak, because I've heard that same explanation in Georgia, in Florida. It's amazing how near elections we keep seeing sort of the same, oh, my bad, that was just a mistake. And that typically is the margin of error when you start talking about the number of people who are thrown off. If Democrats take over the House, how do you see fixing or making better the issue of voting in Virginia?
It's a really good question. Thank you. I'm actually on the Privileges and Elections Committee. It was the first committee I had asked to be on when I won in 2017. I really want to be a part of changing the system, because that is the key to what is happening in general. Our voting rights, all of our rights, we get to the system and we get down to voting and who's representing us. So being a co-chief patron on that bill was something that I was very proud of. But my other thing that I have done with legislation is pass a law that says that localities like Virginia Beach cannot have districts to represent city council and have everyone vote on that district's council. So what we have is a majority in Virginia Beach. We're voting for each ward or each district. And so I passed a law that said that no locality can do that anymore. We outlawed it. So Virginia Beach now has a district system.
Single member district.
A district system where only voters in that district vote, not the whole state.
Right, because for folks who don't understand, historically, if you were African American or you were a non-white elected official, you often lost when it came to at-large elections. And those cases have gone up to the Supreme Court in so many other states as well.
In Virginia.
And that prevented people of color from being able to serve elected office because they were losing at-large races.
Exactly, and we still have some things that are, like when you have a large population like Chesapeake, they do all at-large, and that's not very representative when I think all but one of their city councilors lives in the same neighborhood.
Wow. Yeah, that's foul.
Chesapeake.
Yes, so absolutely get rid of that because it does come down, everything comes down to representation, who represents you, and as I said in the open, who is going to speak to your needs. I make it plain to people all the time that if you supported somebody in a race, whether you're Republican or Democrat, and they don't win, you're still a constituent.
Yes.
And unfortunately, what we're now seeing is this happen where folks act as if that's not the case. When in Alabama, when the courts finally made it clear that they were not going to consider the creation of the second black district, I was grossly offended by the state attorney general who wrote this letter saying Alabamans are against this, and I'm going, did you talk to any of the black people in Alabama who were sick and tired of being forced into one district? And that's the thing that's unfortunate that we see this folks not speaking to all residents, only speaking to the fringe of their party.
Absolutely. They're speaking to the fringe because they're trying to out-Trump each other or...
No pun intended.
No pun intended. But my opponent is a MAGA extremist. He definitely was on John Fredericks calling me a crackpot, crazy liberal communist. So we have some very, very fringe that we need. Things could go one end, and the pendulum can swing one way. And they're doing it. They're doing the rhetoric. They're getting their early vote out. They're trying to make sure. But if we do what we do,
right,
and we vote, we win.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Kelly, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Good luck. Hold tight 1 second right there. Folks, we're going to go to a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk to a former delegate who wants to get back into the Virginia House. We'll talk to him next. Don't forget, folks, you have deadlines that are approaching, and we want you to be sure to vote. As you heard Delegate Don Scott say, early voting is taking place right now. And again, those who register after October 16th, first of all, you can register up to October 16th. Those who register after this day, pre-election day, can still do so. We'll vote using a provisional ballot, but we don't want you to use provisional ballots. We want you to be registered and vote. Take advantage of that, so please do so by October 16th. And the deadline to apply for an absentee ballot is October 27th, would be mailed to you. You can request that absentee ballot through the mail, fax, or online as well. So please do so. And y'all hear me say this all the time. It drives me crazy when I listen to people complain about things in their city, their county, their state, in this country, their school board, then they don't vote. And I know we're in a church, so excuse me, Pastor, I always tell them, voters, shut the hell up. Because... And then when you do not vote, trust me, you are making it possible. And I cannot remember the actual place, but what was it, 4 years ago or so, when there was a tie in Virginia,
Yes.
and it was decided by a coin flip?
It wasn't a coin flip. It was 2 film canisters with 2 names in them.
That's crazy. But that's what happens, again, when you don't have enough folks who vote. So please do so. And so we'll be right back, folks, right here in Virginia Beach, Virginia, on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Thank you. Nice meeting
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
On the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, 2 facts that you need to be aware of. African American women have the highest diagnosis of breast cancer than any other group in the U.S. And young African American women are most likely to be diagnosed with one of the highest aggressive forms of breast cancer than all other groups. It is a disease that requires fast action, determination, and a whole lot of support. On our next show, we'll meet a young woman who's chosen an alternative path and approach to tackling this disease. And you'll hear from our medical and support experts on how to maintain balance through it all.
We encourage exercise. We encourage, changing diet and making, all those personal changes.
That's on the next A Balanced Life on Black Star Network.
Hey, what's up? It's Sammy Roman.
Hey, it's John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show.
It's me, Sherry Shepherd, and you know what you're watching, Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back to New Hope Baptist Church. We're here in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And put your hands together. He just walked up, and Bruce Smith hollered at a brother, the Hall of Famer, Bruce Smith. He was there. I'm about to really, Bruce, come on up here. See, right, come on up here. See, when y'all, come on, right there. Come on up here. I'm going to have you're going to say at least a couple of words. See, that's what happens. See, black people love shout outs. They be sending notes, so-and-so's here. No, I can't have you, because it's important. Here's the first thing, because we often hear people assume that athletes don't care about communities, aren't involved. You're very much involved. Last I saw you, it was at a young male program with a great time there. Just grab the mic, take it off the stand there, and just share with folks your perspective why being involved in community and why voting is critical for our folk.
Well, it's plain and simple, and good evening. Votes, if you don't vote, it has consequences, and you can't complain after the fact. So it's critical that we exercise our voices and allow us to empower those that need the power. This is about our future generation and generations after that. Most of us are fine, but it's the pathway forward that we're trying to make sure that there is a level playing field, that we have the same opportunities as others, and it's inclusive and diverse, and there's economic growth that we are involved in. Most of you all know about the disparity study and our engaging, challenging the status quo of doing business. And the only way we could change those things is if we all come together and put pressure on those that want to keep the status quo, because it's not working for everyone.
And when you say first of all, you were one of the greatest at putting pressure on quarterbacks. And this is what I tell people all the time, that the election is the end of one process but the beginning of another. So when election day comes, the day after, that's it. But we still have to stay engaged to put pressure on those who we elect, or those who still won, to say, you still represent us, so now we're going to make you do what you promised us during the campaign.
Absolutely. Stay informed, be educated about subjects and the people that you're thinking about voting for. It's critical and extremely important. And Roland, I can't thank you enough for all the work that you're doing all over the country, using your voice to stand up for what's right, and really appreciate you.
Folks, put your hands together for Hall of Famer Bruce Smith. Thanks a bunch, Bruce. Appreciate it. That's right. I was going to make you say something now. Come on now. That's right. See, when you own it, you ain't got to ask nobody. I don't have a producer in my ear going, what are you doing? That wasn't the plan. Ain't nobody talking in my ear because I own it. I tell them, be quiet. All right, folks, let's bring up our next candidate. He's former delegate, now trying to get back into the Virginia House, Alex Askew, running for the 95th House District. Alex, come on out. What's up, Doc? How's it going?
How you doing, sir?
Y'all good?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Cool. Came out here, your little blue suit and everything. All right, all clean. Alex, first of all, folks who don't know, born and raised here in Virginia Beach, raised by a public school teacher, attended public schools, attended Hampton University. I got a couple of guys on my team. They actually went to Hampton. I got some other people say Howard's the real HU.
I don't know about
but we ain't going to start nothing. We ain't going to start nothing. You served in the House of Delegates in 2020 and 2021. Again, let's talk about, again, I'll go back to education because raised by a public teacher. And when you look at polling data in the state all across the country, education is one of the top 3 issues for all voters, but certainly for African Americans.
Yes, absolutely. And
now you can grab it. You can take it off. Go ahead.
Speaking of the public educator, she's actually in the audience. My mother's here. Who taught us that education was...
Man, you didn't do that right. You supposed to say, Mama, stand up. What's wrong
Mother,
with you?
stand up. You stand up.
KB?
And I think she had a Hampton shirt on as well.
Your mama gonna cuss you out like, oh, I couldn't stand up or nothing? Please. You're supposed to recognize God, your mama, and your wife. I don't know what's wrong with you, Alex.
You're right. I'm learning. I'm still learning.
All right. Mama got a mask on. She still cuss you out, Alex. I'm just letting you know. I'm letting you know. Go ahead.
Yes, but education taught us that education was one of the most important things, and that's something that nobody could take away from us, right? Went through K through 12 public school system, and as you stated, went to Hampton University, and I'm running and continue to run to make sure that folks have the same opportunity, and that our public schools are fully funded and our teachers are paid equally and equitably. With Virginia, as we all know, especially in Northern Virginia, where you are, Roland, our public school system is great, right? But it doesn't make any sense why our teachers are paid near the bottom 50 out of all the states, where we really need to continue to respect.
And don't you have a big surplus in this state?
We do. Well, I've heard we had a pretty big surplus, but
and a whole lot of that surplus money came from Biden and the federal government. Just in case folk forgot, I know some folk running around. I see these governors in Mississippi, Tennessee, and Georgia talking about the big in Florida with the big surplus. I'm like, well, you better be thinking Biden and Harris all the money that came from the federal government.
And that's absolutely right. And they'll make sure and go cut those ribbons, right, with those funds that they get as well from the federal government. They'll be right there at the ribbon cuttings.
Oh, especially when it comes to rural broadband. That's one of the things there. When we see these battles that are going on, and again, there are battles. You see Moms for Liberty trying to taking over school boards. First thing they're doing is firing superintendents and trying to change curriculum, and people are going over individual books. There was one school district, I think it was in Alabama, where a book got put on a ban list because the author's last name was gay. I mean, when you see when you see Ta-Nehisi Coates and Toni Morrison and other authors like that, and people saying we shouldn't have those books. I mean, look, as a kid growing up, I used to read 300 books a summer. So I understand the value of reading. And what we're seeing here is literally an attempt to raise a generation of students and purposely not teaching them about the history of this country.
That's right. And that's absolutely right. And tell me what's extreme about Between the World and Me. Ta-Nehisi Coates said he did go to the other HU, but he's one of my favorite authors. Tell me what's controversial about that. Up and coming, or a story about a young black man just trying to make it in this world. It doesn't make any sense. To your point, Roland, that you said, I listen and read the paper every day, and there are members that have formed groups going into public libraries and school libraries, removing books off the shelf. Under what context, we're not sure. Maybe because you said the pictures of a young black child that's on the cover, or a little boy's wearing pink. It just doesn't make any sense, but that's extreme MAGA Republicans for you.
But also, when you talk about what we're seeing from these extreme MAGA folks, again, when it comes to education, this refusal to accept history. Right. Whether they like it or not, many of the states in this country, most of the states in this country, I dare say all of them, we have to confront the reality of race in America and what the history was. Virginia was one of those states that was fighting vigorously to include black folks in economics, in education. When you look at, again, that history. And so when you have folks today who do not want
their kids to learn that. They're passing these laws saying, well, if a child is uncomfortable. Well, look, if something happened where lynchings took place, where black soldiers were lynched in uniforms and they were fighting for the country, and these things happen. If race riots happen, to ignore that history means to actually ignore American history.
Exactly.
And Virginia history.
You know, and I say this all the time, and I don't see too many people that can disagree with this. You know, African American history is American history, right? It happened on our soil. You know, the Capital Confederacy, you know, wasn't Virginia. We can't ignore that, right? Because I had a history teacher in school. If you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it, right? So if you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it.
And history does not mean, this is, I think, again, part of this. We talk about, I love these people who say they don't like systemic racism. Hey, trackers, write this down right now. When they say systemic racism, folks want to act as if we're having a conversation about history, it ends in slavery. But the reality is that was an election in 1876. It was the Great Compromise of 1877. Then you had the Plessy v. Ferguson decision. After 1877, you had 92 years of Jim Crow. So this notion that somehow, oh, that stuff ended so long ago, no, we're still seeing it. A kid today in Virginia needs to know why redlining still exists, because it was created by the realtor industry to keep black folks out of neighborhoods. And so when we're having discussions about inequality and funding today, and it's like, oh, I don't understand why the white wealth numbers are here and the black numbers at the bottom. This is why. You can't ignore the history as to why that happened.
Yeah, exactly right. We had restrictive covenants, and I'm sure restrictive covenants, if you go dig deep in different people's deeds in their homes, it probably still states that a black person can't, you know, own the home, right? Sometimes we ignore some of those things, but I mean, we have plenty of history right here in the audience. My mother and her sister were some of the first folks to go to public schools in their small town of Hosky, North Carolina, right? We have the Norfolk, they shut down our schools in Virginia, right? That's pretty well known. And right in Norfolk, Virginia, they closed our schools for years. Our schools had to, our students had to go to public schools, pay to go to schools, and some kids just didn't go to school at all.
Well, I think it's amazing to me when, again, when we talk about this notion of education, and I was having a conversation with somebody the other day. If we're talking, since we in Virginia, okay, we were talking about Title IX. We were talking about the Civil Rights Act. Every student in Virginia needs to know who Howard Smith was, but not the Howard Smith that folk want to teach. Here was somebody who signed the Southern Manifesto. Here was somebody who was an ardent opponent to civil rights. And in fact, we should also thank that segregationist, because what he did was he tried to kill the 64 Civil Rights Act by including women in the 64 Civil Rights Act. All he did was help to get it passed by a larger margin. And so I say this to a group of entrepreneurs, said to the white women in the room. I said, if you look at Title IX that was passed for Civil Rights Act. And so all of those professional schools that opened to women, doctors and lawyers and engineers, was a result of Title IX. It was a result of the 64 Civil Rights Act. And so when Howard Smith, that racist, that's what he was, right, put women in it because he's also sexist, added women, he was trying to kill the bill. He actually strengthened the bill. And so a kid in Virginia needs to know that's who that is. So if you see a building with somebody's name on it, I should know, as Paul Harvey said, the rest of the story of that person, and not just a small piece of what somebody wants to teach them.
You're absolutely right. And as you know, we had a sort of a reawakening in Virginia just a few years back, right, where we took down a lot of monuments. You go down your Monument Ave in Richmond now, all those Confederate statues are gone.
Praise the Lord.
Yes, you're absolutely right. You go to downtown Norfolk, the Confederate statues are gone. We have a little bit of work to do in Virginia Beach, and we're still working on that. But some of the street names are gone. If you go up to, Richmond Highway in different parts of the Commonwealth, that some of those names are gone. But, we still need to teach who those folks
were. And taking
were.
those down does not mean don't teach it.
Exactly. That's
what you're saying is don't glorify and praise as idols those individuals who were domestic terrorists.
Right. And if we look at the timeline when those statues were put up, it was the 40s, 50s, 60s, as we were African Americans were empowering ourselves, right? The beginning of the civil, what we know of the modern civil rights movement, right? But we need to continue to teach that history and make sure our students know their past.
All right, then, Alex. We appreciate it. Good luck in the race. And, again, keep giving them hell. And remember, I always shout your mom out first.
Okay.
All right.
I remember that. All
right. I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. I appreciate it. All right, folks. We're going to come back in a moment on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget to support us in what we do. You can, first of all, support us economically. Look, we're fighting a good fight out here. I told y'all $322 billion is spent annually on advertising in this country. Black-owned media gets anywhere from 0.5 to 1%, even though we have the numbers and things along those lines. And so you can support us via your check and money order P.O. Box. These are the folk who say, man, I ain't sending no money on the electronic stuff. I got some folks, I still get 30 checks a week. They send checks and money orders. This is my old school people. So your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And of course, as I said, be sure to download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. And our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week streaming channel is now live. We're on Amazon News. Go to the Amazon Fire. You can check us out there. You can say, Alexa, play news from the Black Star Network. You can see this show plus the 6 other shows that we have on the network. And don't forget, you can also watch us now on Plex TV. And we just started a couple of weeks ago on Amazon Freevee as well as Amazon Prime Video. So when you go to Prime Video, click Live TV. Our channel is right there with NBC, ABC, CBS, and the other networks as well. And we're the only black-owned digital news network that is available. And so check us out there. We'll be right back from New Hope Baptist Church right here in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
All change is not growth.
Right.
But thoughtful change is real good fertilizer. And that's what has been so beneficial to us.
But you also were not afraid of the pivot.
Well, and I'm a black woman in business. Come on, I don't care how I dress up. I don't care who I'm speaking with. I don't care what part of the world I am in. I still am a black woman in business. Being afraid of the pivot, being fearful of change is not what got me here. Respectful of change, respectful of pivot, yeah. Fearful, no, no.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Table with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Coming up next on The Frequency, right here on the Black Star Network, Shanita Hubbard.
We're talking about the ride or die chick. We're breaking it down. The stereotype of the strong black woman.
Some of us are operating with it as if it's a badge of honor. Like you even hear black women like aspiring to be this ride or die chick, aspiring to be this strong black woman trope at their own expense.
Next on The Frequency, right here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Farquhar, executive producer of Proud Family.
Bruce Smith, creator and executive producer of The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back. New Hope Baptist Church here in Virginia Beach, Virginia. We've been talking to several candidates on the Democratic side who are running for the Virginia House. We partnered with the Virginia Democratic Caucus to put this on. Hope all is well. Everybody here, y'all good? All right, then. On Republican trackers, y'all learned some good information, right? Y'all learned about history, the issues that are important to us. Be sure to pass it on to your candidates. I would love to see them address these issues. All right, y'all, right now let's bring up Phil Hernandez. He's a Democratic candidate for Virginia's 94th House District. Phil is facing Andy Pittman. Phil is, come on, Phil, come on down. There we go. Phil is a civil rights attorney, born and raised in Hampton Roads. 94 is one of the most diverse districts in the state. Phil served as a senior policy analyst in the Obama administration, has helped pass laws in Virginia to increase minimum wage, lower taxes for families, and support for local schools. Phil, I got to ask you this here. Grab the microphone. You want to leave it there, talk.
All right, I got you.
So, interesting. So your opponent, Andy Pittman, likened abortion to slavery? And this is the one that's really confusing me, how these MAGA folks are calling public schools places of public indoctrination when they're the ones who are trying to get PragerU, not even a real university, in schools with that nonsense.
So I take a lot of offense to that tweet, too, because I think there are a lot of folks in this room, myself included, who are products of public schools.
Yep, right here.
So I was raised by a single mom right here in Hampton Roads, told us about the importance of education, first in my family to go to college, went to William & Mary, got a chance to work for President Obama because of that, got a chance to become a civil rights attorney because of that, got a chance to lead a nonprofit because of that. So when I hear that public schools now all of a sudden are places of poisonous indoctrination, that's offensive. That's offensive. We ask teachers to do so much, and we pay them so little. So then let's not insult them along the way. It's been said before, but Virginia is one of the top 10 states when it comes to per capita income, but we just cannot get teacher pay up to the national average. But we talk about a surplus.
Well, you
It's not a surplus.
you can't get it up if folks don't pass the bill.
But, you know, we just had this conversation about a surplus. I say don't call that a surplus until teachers are paid what they're worth, until schools are fully funded, until mental health needs are met, and until we have the basic foundational things for every family to succeed. It's not a surplus.
So that's the thing that also gets me. So whenever we have these mass shootings, and this state has had to deal with some major mass shootings, and I hear folks on the right who quickly go to mental illness, and then my first response is, okay, then what are you going to do about mental illness? And then typically nothing happens. In my native Texas, we saw that same thing after what took place in Uvalde. Nothing was done by the governor when it comes to mental illness. In fact, funding for mental illness was cut. And so that's where the hypocrisy of those folks who don't support gun legislation, but then want to yell mental illness, but then don't want to fund how do we fix that problem.
So let's just think about a recent example on this point. In Newport News, earlier this year, you all are going to remember this story. There was a 6-year-old who brought a gun to school, never should have had the gun in the first place, shot his teacher. Thankfully, she lived, but she was shot. She was wounded. She was harmed, and other people's lives were put in danger.
It's PTSD.
And the legislative session was still going on at that time, and I was watching because there was this bill that would have said, if you have a firearm and you have a minor, a child, in the home, you got to securely store away that gun, just like you might keep medicine out of reach of kids, right? A common sense bill. Really should have been low-hanging fruit, probably should have been passed many moons ago, right? But even in the face of a tragedy like that, that bill didn't even get a hearing. There was not even a conversation.
Not even a hearing?
Not even a conversation. So this is what I mean. There is a certain strain of extremism that makes it difficult. If you can't even have a conversation in the wake of something like that, you got to vote these people out. You got to elect people who are going to do something.
I want to stay on that right there because when we talk about mental illness in this country, when there used to be all across the place community service centers that where people could go to for a number of different services.
Right.
But a lot of those things were cut.
Right.
And what a lot of places have done, they've started to try to push a lot of that into schools. I've had, several of my family members, my brother, two of my sisters, teachers, other family members. And I said, folks, everything can't be pushed to schools to the point where education is 5th and 6th as a priority.
Yep.
Dental, health, mental, food disparity, all of those things, again, being pushed towards schools. How important is it to get back to schools being the first priority to educate as opposed to becoming the 21st century community service centers?
Yeah, that's a big question right there, right? And I'm going to put on my civil rights attorney hat for just a moment and remind people actually that Virginia's Constitution right now, today, you can go look at it, it guarantees every single child in the Commonwealth a world-class education. Doesn't matter what part of Virginia you live in. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter how much money your parents make. Nothing like that. It's a guarantee to all kids. It actually traces back to the Reconstruction era. It's a brilliant Constitution amendment. And we have not lived up to it. That's the problem. It is a bold vision, but year after year after year, we let teachers be underpaid, we underfund school buildings, we have crumbling infrastructure here. And, what I had hoped sort of coming out of the pandemic, given that was such a strain on our educators doing their best, a strain on students, that might have been a moment for us to come together and recognize the critical importance of public schools, almost as foundational to our democracy, but certainly also to our economy long term. I will say, I think getting public education right is the single most important job that the legislature has over the long term.
Absolutely, absolutely. Your opponent had a few things to say about voting rights. Gave an interview at a conservative talk radio station and proudly touted wanting to restrict voting rights. I still find that to be just utterly insane. How about you actually make the argument to a larger number of people, and if they agree, then they vote for you? I think it is ridiculous to watch these folks who want to get rid of ballot drop boxes, who want to restrict dates, who want to kick voters off the rolls. In fact, you literally have Republican lawyers who have said across the country, we need fewer people voting, and that everybody shouldn't have the right to vote. That literally is the strategy of today's Republican Party, not just in Virginia, but across this country, to restrict voting. And they've been on record as saying, if more people vote, we lose. That's their strategy.
It's because he was being honest about his position. He wants to roll back voting rights, and he told you that. So on some level, I'm like, okay, I just strongly disagree. I will say it was a little funny to me, and more than a little hypocritical, I thought. It was the first day of early voting here in Virginia, and I was there with Delegate Williams-Graves, and we were, greeting people, say, hey, thanks so much for coming out on the first day of early voting. That's terrific. Thank you so much. And my opponent was there, and after, lamenting the early voting season, and I was just thinking, can you imagine the pitch that he was making? Hey, thanks for coming out to early vote. If it were up to me, this is the last time you're going to do it. That's not a good pitch.
Or, hey, how you doing? Go home.
But not, it's funny, but also, I agree. If you really feel like the policies that you stand for, whether it's about voting rights or education or the environment or any issue under the sun, if you think that that's going to do the most good for the most people, you want more people to vote. It's that simple.
But what kills me, though, but these MAGA folks are the ones who support our troops because they're fighting for our freedom and our way of life. what greater way of life are we talking about then? And they love talking about democracy, and we have the greatest democracy, and other countries would love to have what we have. Not when you want to restrict it.
You know, so I ran once in 2019 in a gerrymandered little creature of a district. This one, thankfully, has been redrawn. I felt like back then, at least, we were having mostly Democratic versus Republican arguments, which is, you know, what the process is sort of designed to do. I feel differently this time. I feel like I'm making my arguments, and there's extremism on the other side. When you are not sort of committed to the basic bedrock underpinnings of democracy, when you are trying to make it harder to vote, when you're questioning the results of the 2020 election, when you're cheering on the people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th, I think that should be disqualifying. But that's me. We'll find out in 29 days.
Well, and I think what you laid out is for those who defend what took place on January 6th, I don't want to hear any of them talk about Blue Lives Matter. Because cops were attacked, cops were beaten, cops were brutalized. And if you're defending those folks, those domestic terrorists on January 6th and what they did to cops, I don't want to hear you say anything when it comes to, oh, let's support law enforcement, except when they were trying to protect the Capitol from folks who want to overturn the election.
Yeah, law enforcement showed incredible bravery that day, really. They did.
You're a civil rights attorney, and what we're also seeing, we're seeing MAGA folks who want to restrict and roll back voting rights, but there is an all-out assault on civil rights in this country as well. Long, hard-fought battles. This state was at the center of many of those battles during the Black Freedom Movement, also known as the Civil Rights Movement. So talk about, again, how vital it is for the legislature to protect the civil rights of folks. People, I love these folks who talk about the founding fathers and what they meant, but I dare say that there are founding fathers 2.0, men and women who fought to make America, as Dr. King said, be true to what you put on paper.
That's right.
And there are people who want to roll that back because they don't, frankly, like the fact that folks have gotten civil rights in this country.
Well, just to stick with the voting rights issue again for a little longer. So we used to have at the federal level a really strong Voting Rights Act, or Section 2 of that law, that used to prevent any states from actively suppressing the right to vote. And you saw this used a lot in southern states. They would make changes that were going to disenfranchise Black voters, Latino voters, minority voters.
And was voted on every 25 years and was passed in huge numbers. Republicans supported it.
Democrats and Republicans. And then the Supreme Court came along and invalidated that provision.
Shelby v. Holder.
That's right. And in the wake of that, what have we seen?
Republican legislatures immediately.
Avalanche of voter suppression laws. Now, thankfully, because of leaders in the General Assembly, Democrats passed the Voting Rights Act. So we are a little bit more protected than some other states. But we have to make sure that we're protecting that, because that itself is on the ballot this year. And voting rights are connected to every other right that we enjoy. So we got to get out and make sure that we're sending a message this November.
So how would you, so if you're elected and let's say Democrats take control of the House, how would you strengthen voting? How do you want to see it expanded in the state?
So we've made a lot of gains over the last couple of years, right? We have expanded early voting. We have no excuse absentee voting, which is really important. I was talking to a woman on the doors just the other day who has MS, and so her mobility was limited, and she was just so thankful for early voting. I think if there's one big thing that we still need to do, it's automatic restoration of voting rights for people who have been convicted but then served their time. That is a civil rights issue. And my view has always been that if you have paid your debt to society, you should have all the rights of every other citizen, and that includes voting. Shouldn't be some complicated process. It should be automatic.
You know what? And one of the things that amazes me, Phil, is when I listen to a lot of my folks who are really, really, really hardcore conservative, when they talk about, I'm an originalist. What was the original intent of the founders when it came to these laws? Well, It's amazing how those same originalists don't want to remember originally how that was created. When Terry McAuliffe was the governor, how that was in Virginia racist who literally said, we are passing this to keep the darkies from voting. And that was the original intent.
Right.
And so when someone is defending today that practice, they literally are upholding a racist practice that was designed specifically to keep black people who were incarcerated from voting. And we also know through the peonage system and other forms how even those systems were created to keep black folks working for free because slavery was no longer the law of the land.
Do you want to know the good news?
Go ahead.
So when it comes to changing this, we need a constitutional amendment to have automatic restoration of voting rights. We don't need the governor's signature for that. We don't need the governor's signature for that. The General Assembly just has to pass it in 2 consecutive sessions with an election in between. So as long as we put in the work and make sure people understand the importance of the issue and how it is a civil rights issue, and people show up and vote, then I have every confidence that we can amend the Constitution in Virginia and enshrine those rights.
About simple majority?
I think it's a higher threshold for that one, but we just
For a constitutional amendment. So
I'll have to check on that one.
So for the folk, Joe Manchin always said you got to put it where the ghost can get it. So if Democrats control the House and the Senate for 2 consecutive terms and it passes
with an election in the middle, that's right.
With election in the middle, then that constitutional amendment becomes law.
That's right.
And so those
it does not go to the governor's desk.
There you go. So again, for somebody who's saying, hey, why should I vote? Yep. If you believe in restoring voting rights to those formerly incarcerated, this is the only way it gets done, by putting in the Constitution.
Yep. Yep.
Absolutely.
Let's get it done.
Last question I want to ask you, and that is minimum wage.
Yep.
And it was sheer insanity to me during COVID to listen to folks like Senator Lindsey Graham complain that, people were making more money through unemployment than they were on their jobs. We got to get them back to work. And I sat there and I said, does he even understand what he's saying? That if somebody is making more money on unemployment than an actual job, the problem ain't the unemployment. And so I own a small business, and we hear people attacking and say, oh, look, the higher minimum wage, folk cannot live off of that number.
Yep.
And it's mind-boggling when people are making that argument, and you're going, why don't you try it?
Yeah, right. They don't sign up for that quickly, do they?
Right.
So one of the hallmark achievements of the Democratic trifecta a couple of years ago was that we did increase Virginia's minimum wage. It had languished at $7.25 for more than a decade. So it's not worth $7.25 10 years later, right? Because inflation has eaten into that. Because of the new law, we are now at $12. Which is not where we need to be in the end, but it is
better than $7.25.
That's right. There were also some really important civil rights changes to that law. They closed some loopholes that excluded workers that are traditionally African Americans or home health care workers. We still need to close the farm worker loophole in Virginia because they're not guaranteed a minimum wage. But look, it's going to stay at $12 unless we have a Democratic majority in the House and the Senate. And if we send a bill to the governor and he wants to veto that, so be it, but he's going to have to answer to the people because $12 is not enough to live on. And can I just say, too, because I think this shows a little bit of a difference in how the parties think about economic growth, right? You see this past year, the governor was tax giveaways that would have cost billions of dollars over the next few years.
I'm sorry, you mean corporate welfare?
Yes.
Gotcha, go ahead.
Thinking somehow that this was going to rain down prosperity on the land, right? And my view, and I think Democrats generally view, that the economy is people. You got to invest in people. If you invest in public education, if you invest in infrastructure, if you make sure that they have health care and good benefits and good jobs, then you know what? Chances are the economy is going to be doing all right. And so I think we've got to remember that. The people are the economy. We've got to hold them front and center.
All right, so Phil, I'm in the business of words. I'm going to help you out with that one. So I'm going to shorten that one. If you give people more money, they're going to spend more money. If people spend more money, they're going to help the economy. See, I just shortened that for you, Phil. That's the only problem, Democrats. Y'all like giving white paper thesis statements. Republicans use bumper stickers. But it's true. Again, I'm bringing Lindsey Graham up for that reason, because here's what happened. When they cut unemployment benefits in South Carolina, studies show that South Carolina was one of the slowest states to have an economic recovery during COVID, because the folks had less money to actually spend. Right. And so, I mean, that's just the reality. Yeah. People spend money. They buy goods and services. And so when they have more money to spend, they actually spend more. And that, you're absolutely right. And the reason I wanted to call that corporate welfare, because this is also the difference. And I get Youngkin's whole deal this past when it comes to, the business that he's involved in. But it is an abomination to me when I listen to folks in this country talk about, we're gonna make all these cuts to help corporations, when we saw the Trump tax cuts, where the corporations actually said, oh, no, we're not spending that money on workers. Mm-hmm. We know stock buybacks. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't realize stock buybacks used to be illegal. And what we're seeing, unfortunately, is companies, that money is going to investors. It is not going to workers. Right. It is not going to the regular everyday people. Right. It's not going to the people who make it possible for the CEO to get paid 400 times more than an actual worker.
That's absolutely right. And I think a lot about my mom and my sister growing up. When she had, first of all, when money was tight, she always used to say she could make a dime scream. So she wasn't all that worried. She could find a way. But when we did have a little bit more money, what was she doing with it? She was making sure I had a new backpack for school, some new shoes, maybe a winter coat. Maybe we go out to eat, right? It is these kinds of things that propel the economy and overall. So
absolutely. Put your hands together, Phil Hernandez. Phil, we appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. All right, folks, we got one more candidate we're going to talk to. We're going to also chat with some folks out here. I want to get their thoughts on what they want to see happen when it comes to power here. Again, we keep emphasizing how critically important voting is. And my audience understands this, and I want the people here to spread this word as well, because the reality is, and this is how simple I think this thing is for every person in the room. If somebody out there is saying, hey, I don't want to hear this candidate, I don't want to hear that candidate, this stuff means nothing. First of all, don't get into an argument. And I'll be honest with you, don't use that, oh, so-and-so died for you to have the right to vote. That don't work. This is all you have to do. You have to say, what are the three most important things you care about? And they likely are going to bring up something. And then what your job is to do is explain to them exactly how elected official has a direct role on that. I do this all across the country. And people tell me, man, these politicians, they all the same. And I go, really? What's the three things you care about? And then I get the people who say, oh, man, you caping for the Democrats. I said, nope, I cape for black people. I cape for working people. They're making it happen. And when you ask a person the three things they care about, then you say, okay, this candidate don't support that, this one does. And what ends up happening is it's probably going to be 3-0 or 2-1. Then you say, now, which one of these candidates you want to see in office? Now they're perplexed, because now they're going to answer the question. And so that's what actually how we have to treat this, because the assumption that we make is people know. The fact of the matter is a lot of people are too busy. They have no clue about this stuff. My parents never went to college, but they were involved in politics, running phone banks and helping with campaigns. And so I've lived this since I was 6 and 7 and 8 years old. I remember handing out pamphlets for candidates on election day. And so that's how I grew up. But a lot of people don't know, but they're the very people who need help
who need support. So we have to walk folks through and explaining to them how this all works. And so every single person in here should be doing that. You should be texting people. You should be calling people. I see my Alpha brothers here. I see some Deltas here. I see other Divine Nine members here. We have to be using all of our institutions to drive this issue, because what I don't want to do is hear people complain the day after the election and then they didn't vote, and then I look at them going, well, shut up, because you clearly didn't want to participate at all. And so we got to make sure that happens. So we're going to go to a break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin, Unfiltered, on the Black Star Network from New Hope Baptist Church in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Thank you so much. Y'all good?
On the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, 2 facts that you need to be aware of. African American women have the highest diagnosis of breast cancer than any other group in the U.S. And young African American women are most likely to be diagnosed with one of the highest aggressive forms of breast cancer than all other groups. It is a disease that requires fast action, determination, and a whole lot of support. On our next show, we'll meet a young woman who's chosen an alternative path and approach to tackling this disease. And you'll hear from our medical and support experts on how to maintain balance through it all.
We encourage exercise. We encourage, changing diet and making, all those personal changes.
That's on the next A Balanced Life on Black Star Network.
Coming up next on The Frequency, right here on the Black Star Network, Shanita Hubbard.
We're talking about the ride or die chick. We're breaking it down. The stereotype of the strong Black woman.
Some of us are operating with it as if it's a badge of honor. Like, you even hear Black women like aspiring to be this ride or die chick, aspiring to be this strong Black woman trope at their own expense.
Next on The Frequency, right here on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, you're going to learn about the silver tsunami, which means that 1 million people are turning 65 every day, and they're going to need some kind of care. You're going to meet 2 sisters whose situation with their own family led them to start a business in this industry, and now they're showing others.
This is our passion, our mission, our purpose, our ministry.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
This is Essence Atkins.
It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon.
It's me, Sherry Shepard, and you know what you're watching.
You're watching Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back to New Hope Baptist Church here in Virginia Beach, Virginia. We got one more candidate. Then I'm going to go to the floor, chatting with some of the folks here in the audience. Glad to have all of you here on this Monday night. Y'all do me a favor. Let the people know in Suffolk we're going to be there tomorrow for another conversation there. So pass the word. We want to see y'all in Suffolk, Virginia. I'll give you the location for that church a little bit later. It's right there on the screen. And so look forward to being there. And so we want to see y'all turn up and turn out. Joining me right now is Michael Fagin. He is the Democratic candidate for the Virginia's 97th House District. Michael, come on out. He's running against Karen Greenhall here in Virginia Beach. He's an Air Force veteran. He's a member of the coldest, boldest frat out here, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. He mentors in Virginia Beach schools. He too was raised by a teacher 30 plus years, and also a firefighter and Air Force veteran. Glad to have Michael. He is challenging again, one of the far right-wing folks running. Michael, glad to have you. First off, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, brother. First off, I wanted to make sure, is my mother still in the audience? There
you go.
My mother.
Shout your mama out.
My mom is, she's an incredible teacher. She worked for 30-plus years in Norfolk Public School System. I've seen how hard our teachers are dedicated. I also want to give of course, my father is here. He was one of the first black captains at Norfolk International Airport. And I want to thank my partner for also being here as well. And thank you, and also to my brothers from Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. They are incredible, and I so much appreciate their support having them be here today.
All right, then. Glad to have you here. Let's start here. I did with other candidates. I want to talk about, again, with education, for you having that history. When you, again, look at the attacks on teachers, the attacks on folks like your mother, the attacks your mother, the people who not wanting black history being taught and the banning of books. How does that make you feel when your opponent sides with folks who agree with that extreme, not just rhetoric, but also action?
No, it's direct action. It's direct action to, as some of the candidates stated before, to dismantle public school system here. They do not want our children to know about history because they're afraid about what happens if they learn about the history. My mother is an incredible teacher. She's teaching the next generation of teachers right now. I'm always in the school systems here. I can tell that the successes I've had in my life have been because of the teachers that poured into me and from Virginia Beach Public School System. People move here to Virginia Beach and stay here because of our incredible public school systems. Like so many people here that moved to Virginia because of our school system. And when you see the attacks, and you see, for example, my opponent is trying to bring, and she admits it, bring a DeSantis style to Florida to Virginia.
The
book banning.
You about to make me cuss in church.
We in church.
I had to catch myself because I was about to straight cuss it. Go ahead.
No, but yeah, that is what they want. They do not want. They just don't want that type of. They don't want public school education here. So they're going to try to continue to find ways to get creative, to not support our teachers, to try to pit parents against teachers, and that's really what they're trying to do.
Right.
When I'm in the school system, when I mentor, I'm a STEAM mentor at many of our middle schools and high schools here. When I'm there, you always see parents being involved. You always see individuals involved. But when you see them trying to make the parents and teachers battle against each other, it's not just something it's on purpose.
But the key there, you said you are a mentor. Your mom was a teacher. You're not trying to teach. And the reason I say that is because, again, one of the things that is always stunning to me, and I've seen this all across the country, we love experts. Okay, if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, you go to school, that's what you learn to do, that's what you do. Mm-hmm. It is amazing to me how, when education comes up, we assume everybody in the world can do the job of an educator, except the educator. I mean, I've never seen any other area where they say, oh, what'd you do? Oh, you dug some ditches? You can teach math. You know, and you can be the principal. And that's a little, it's what we're seeing, and again, let me be perfectly clear. Trackers. My mama and daddy had 5 kids. They all knew, we were in 4 different schools. Yeah. When we got to high school, they knew all of our teachers. They were there. They were at PTA meetings. But my parents were there to assist the teachers in educating. Exactly. Not to replace the teachers.
And it's always been a partnership, and it should continue to be a partnership. When we're seeing parents join with the PTA, with the booster clubs, the schools that I go to across Virginia Beach, parents are involved. What they're trying to do is trying to make it seem like parents are involved. Maybe that they see there's a certain type of parent that isn't involved, but when I'm in the schools, our parents are involved because they care about their students. They care about their children. And so when you're hearing these attacks, when I left for the Air Force, I raised my hand when I was 17 years old to serve this nation. When I was in basic training, I could tell the difference between individuals from different states where the public school systems maybe weren't valued. Maybe they didn't invest in the same. I know that I was able to rise up through the ranks because of Virginia Beach Public Schools. I know I was able to go to graduate and get my bachelor's in healthcare administration because of Virginia Beach Public Schools, to get my graduate certification from Virginia Tech because of Virginia Beach Public Schools, to graduate from one of the best HBCUs in the country, Norfolk State University, with a master's in cybersecurity because of Virginia Beach Public Schools. That foundation is here and is continuing to be here, and we're not going to let them tear down that foundation.
See, it was interesting. So I love these people who assume I don't track what they say in our comment boards. And so there's this.
Oh, you going live?
I see everything. I see everything. They think I don't see. I see. See, they got to understand. I got 3 iPads, 2 phones, so I track everything up here. That's why the Republican trackers don't try to misquote me, because trust me, I'm watching you too. So this guy Rick A. Shaw, I call out names too. He goes, elites up in here. But here's what's amazing to me, and this is what truly cracks me up about these folks on the right, especially these MAGA people. I've listened to numerous candidates come up here and talk about their upbringing, many of them single parents, many of them raised by teachers, but now they want to call somebody an elite. Well, isn't that what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to get an education. You're supposed to, in your case, join the Air Force. You're supposed to commit to public service. You're supposed to actually do better. I'm trying to understand, when was it a bad thing to get an education and actually do something with your life, and then they holler, oh, you're an elite? Come on.
Well, Brother Martin, I would just almost say, look at the hue of the candidates that have been up here and see why they're trying to call us elites. There's maybe another word that they're trying to use and didn't want to put in there. I won't say it for them. But I went and was able to do so much around this world about serving in Operation Enduring Freedom. And I was enlisted, which means, and so I rose up through the ranks and became a senior NCO. And I was able to build things all across this country and all across this world, from hospitals in South Korea to hospitals working in Guam, working in Kyrgyzstan. The education that the military provided me helped me get to where I can launch my own cybersecurity company after 20 years. All we're seeing is that they're continuing to say that, they can only go so far. There's 2 individuals here. We actually all went to the same high school together. Delegate Fowler and Alex Askew. We all went to Tallwood High School together. So we all went at different times, but we all came from the same high school. So imagine that one high school is able to produce 3 future delegates at the same time. That is the power of Virginia Beach Public Schools.
You talked about, you said serving in Operation Enduring Freedom. And it has to be insulting for you as a veteran to listen to people talk about freedoms and how we represent, we're a beacon of light to the world. Yet these are the same folk who turn around and want to deny freedom, deny history, who literally, when you look at the shutting down of history and the banning of books, that's what they complain about happens in other countries. Then when you look at, again, what took place on January 6th, defending that, I'm trying to understand, that's not supporting the ideals of America. That's not supporting our military.
It's the complete opposite of freedom. When we have hundreds of thousands of individuals, especially here in Virginia Beach. So just so y'all know, we're actually sitting in House District 97. So of course, welcome to House District 97. Virginia Beach has one of the greatest concentrations of veterans, of active duty service members. So when someone says, when we see that the attacks on freedom, what we've been talking about is that they're the complete opposite of freedom. They're against reproductive freedom. They're against voting freedom. They're against the freedom. The next steps that we've been hearing is after they think they're going to ban reproductive freedom, is that they're going to potentially try to ban the freedom to marry who you love. And we've seen that in some states around the country. And we're reclaiming that word freedom. We are the party of freedom. We are the ones that get the freedom to get your education, the freedom to marry who you love, the freedom for you to receive the health care you deserve without unqualified politicians being involved in those health care decisions. That's true freedom. They're the complete opposite of freedom.
Y'all can clap on that. I do want to speak to the issue of health care, because what we still see, and again, being from Houston, Texas Medical Center, world renowned, but it is still stunning to me in this country how we can tout how amazing the American healthcare system is. And when it always cracks me up when the clueless Sean Hannity is just touting others around the world want to come here for our healthcare centers. But then the same folk don't think about the same Americans who can't access the same healthcare centers. There are people who are working in those healthcare centers, changing the bedpans, but can't afford to be there if they get sick. And so if you are elected, you're focused on health care for the less fortunate here in Virginia.
I am, and it's going to continue the expansions that we saw when we had the Democratic majority, when we had the governor, when we had the Senate, when we had the House. We saw what Delegate Fowler was able to do in terms of health care expansion, and then we saw what happens is that soon as they were in power, that they want to try to roll back those expansions that we saw. So when I am elected, we're going to make sure that we continue those expansions in healthcare. Especially as a healthcare administrator, I know how much it costs to go to a primary care physician. I know so many in our community don't have a primary care physician. They go to urgent care for their daily health care. And then to see other states,
or they'll go to emergency rooms,
exactly,
which are funded by county taxpayers.
Yeah.
So you're still paying for that. So it's actually cheaper if we provide broader access than force them to go to ERs.
It is 2 to 3 times more expensive to go for routine health care at an emergency room than it is to your primary care physician. But we have to get them primary care physicians first.
Absolutely. I've had folks from Vote Vets and IAVA on my shows over the years.
Yeah.
And one of the areas where we really are being impacted, where veterans are being impacted, is mental health. The number of suicides are tremendous. We talked about this a little bit earlier as well. Speak to what your focus is on this issue beyond veterans, because we're seeing this. This is a significant problem in this country, the mental health crisis in America, in Virginia.
So I can speak to this directly as a veteran. I was actually talking with one of my former troops today. We're coming up on the 15-year anniversary of my good friend Staff Sergeant Corey Bradley. Staff Sergeant Corey Bradley was at my house one evening, and we were hanging out. A few hours later, he got into a fight with his significant other and then took his life. I didn't find out till the next morning, and it shook me to the core, because that was someone who didn't have, at the time in the Air Force, we really didn't have the training to know what was going on. So the military has done an incredible job for training our service members, let them know about some of the signals that are out there, some of the signs. But I still remember carrying his flag draped coffin, into that hearse. And for a lot of individuals in the military, it's something that we've always been afraid of. I can say for myself, I was afraid to seek a mental health tune-up because I was afraid of the ramifications it would have to my career. But there's been so much improvement over the past few years, especially within the military, to try to take away that stigma. But we still have a lot here to do, especially here at the federal level, but at the state level. We have one of the reasons that veterans stay here is because of our healthcare system that we have, because of the resources that we have within the community, from our nonprofit partners to some of our state-run healthcare facilities. But there's more that must be done, because there's still individuals falling through the cracks, and we can't allow that. Especially, it doesn't matter if you serve 4 years or 40 years. You deserve that when you come back home, that your country takes care of you, and that's what I'm gonna make sure to do when I'm elected.
All right. Michael Fagin, we appreciate it, Fred. Thanks a bunch. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thanks a bunch. All right. Folks, got to go to a break. We come back. We're going to hear from some of the folks sitting out here who are your voters. And so when folks raise their hands, who's already voted? All right, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the first 3 questions from someone who hasn't voted yet. Love to hear what you have to say. Folks, we're here at New Hope Baptist Church in Virginia Beach, Virginia. We'll be right back here on Roland Martin Unfiltered of the Black Star Network. Don't forget to support us in what we do. Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Our goal is I did want to do a subscription because I knew a lot of folks simply could not afford to pay that monthly fee. And so we have it open to everyone. We live stream this show on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Instagram. We're on numerous other platforms, but your support is critically important as we continue to fight the good fight with these advertisers out here. I see these ads running all on Fox News, and the advertisers then say, ooh, brand safety. And I'm like, do you see any of those shows? But that's what they do to a lot of black-owned media. And so your support is critical. In the 5 years we've had this show, our fan base has been so tremendous. They've given more than $2 million to support this show. People literally walk up to me when I'm in public and they will place cash and checks in my hand because they support what we do. And here's the other thing, unlike what you see NPR other places, we don't see in hats and T-shirts and mugs. All the money goes back into the show to pay for staff and equipment and all the different things that make this possible. And that's one of the reasons why we've grown this show to more than 1.1 million subscribers on YouTube. We now have our 24-hour channel on 4 different platforms. And so we're doing stuff that nobody else is in the black-owned media space is doing. And so that's why your support is critical. See and check in money orders to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. You also Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. That's the only one we have. When you see anything else, again, Cash App, RM Unfiltered, PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download our app. We're approaching 100,000 downloads, and so you can do so. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. And of course, if you want to check out our app, you can do so, or you can watch our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week streaming channel. We're on the fast channel platforms, Amazon News, Plex TV, Amazon Freevee, as well as Amazon Prime Video. So when you go to those platforms, click Live TV. We're right there on their grid as well. We'll be right back from Virginia Beach.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, you're going to learn about the silver tsunami, which means that 1 million people are turning 65 every day, and they're going to need some kind of care. You're going to meet 2 sisters whose situation with their own family led them to start a business in this industry, and now they're showing others.
This is our passion, our mission, our purpose, our ministry.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
This is Essence Atkins.
It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon.
It's me, Sherry Shepard, and you know what you watch.
You're watching Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back to New Hope Baptist Church in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I'm Roland Martin, host of Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. And so we've had several candidates up here speaking. Now I always love to hear from voters what are their thoughts about the issues, what matters to them. And so I'm going to step on down here. We're going to take some of the questions. And so here I got some ground rules. First of all, keep your hands to your side. I don't need you holding the microphone. I got it. I don't need no assistance. This is not my first rodeo. If you reach for the microphone, I'm going to pop your hand, just let you know. That's first. Two, keep your comment tight and right. If you get long-winded, I will shut you down. I'm just letting you know I ain't got no problem doing it. So when you come up, give us your name, where you're from, and then let's make your statement. All right, come on up. You first. Let's go. All right. What's your name? Where you from?
Hello, my name is Tori Crowder, and I am originally from Baltimore, Maryland, but I live here in Virginia Beach.
All right, cool. What's your question or thought?
My question is centered around workplace bullying and mental health. What are legislatures going to do about mental health as it relates to the bullying that we have seen? We've already known about 2 tragic incidents that has happened in Hampton Roads. So what is the response to that? How can we stop that from happening?
All right. Any candidate want to answer that question? Anybody? Anybody? You know, flip a coin. Come on. Cool. I appreciate it. Think who's going to answer? Michael's going to come on. I told you, put your hands down. That apply to candidates too. It don't just apply to them. Put your hands down. All right.
So a lot of this is going to be making sure in terms of making sure that we prioritize. When Phil was talking about surpluses, we're still trying to prioritize our businesses, our extremely wealthy businesses. I'm a small business owner. I know that there's still work that needs to be done as a small business, but we're still seeing our governor trying to focus on tax breaks for the most wealthy instead of trying to put those same type of investments in our mental health. And so I know so much for I can speak for myself and probably for the rest of the candidates here that we're going to make sure that we're going to put those investments directly into our mental health capabilities here in Virginia.
All right, sounds good. We'll be the alpha going to try to grab the microphone. Man, put your hand down. All right, come on up. Name and where you're from.
My name is Judah. I'm from Chesapeake. So I'm a current college student. I'm not a sophomore, I'm a junior. I do a lot of voter registration.
Where? What school?
Virginia Wesleyan University. I do a lot of voter registration on my campus, and I receive a lot of voter apathy, especially from my peers. And so I just kind of want to know what are some things y'all plan to do to attack the voter apathy that's currently within my generation.
But see, I'm gonna ask you. So what are you doing to attack voter apathy?
I try to increase engagement, just like reach out to people. I'm like, hey, make sure you're registered to vote, because I feel like it's very imperative for people my age to vote. A lot of times I hear people say,
no, but what's your line? What's your line? I ain't talking about like you trying to get a date. No, I'm saying, but if you're facing somebody who says, hey man, this stuff means nothing to me, what do you say to them?
I say if you don't vote, you can't complain.
No, that ain't it. I'm telling you, this is going to help you. I'm telling you. You have to say, okay, I'm going to take voting off the table. What do you care about? When you ask them, what do you care about, then they're going to get, no, what do you care about? And then once they say, and then I'm telling you, as any preacher, what a pastor, as any preacher, they tell you get 3 points and get out with your sermon. Ask them what are the 3 things that you care about. Your job is then to connect their 3 things to those who. If you want those 3 things addressed, this is how they address it. But if you don't vote, you can't have your 3 things addressed. So you sort of got to put the onus on them, but you got to force them to actually say that. And then when they do, I'm telling you, 9.9 out of 10 is like, oh, I didn't know that. See, you are an engaged voter. They're not. So that's sort of one of the ways you actually do it.
Thank you.
All right. Cool. I'm telling you it works. And it doesn't matter what the age group is. And then I'll give you this as well. So how old are you? You're 20. So I hear
and I hear this right now, there's a lot of young voters who say, man, I'm sick and tired of all these old people who are making decisions for us. And then this is what I tell them, old people vote. I do. The largest voting bloc in America are 65 plus. The second, she throwing a hand up like, that's us. The second largest voting bloc are 55 plus. But the largest eligible voting bloc are Gen Z and millennials. So what I tell Gen Z and millennials, and she over there raising her hand, I tell Gen Z and millennials, if y'all want to shut all the old people up, vote. All you got to do is outvote them, but the old folk gonna vote. They gonna vote, and that's the whole deal, though. And so again, that's one of the ways that you hit them. And you say, hey, you can't complain about somebody 70, 75 voting because they actually care. But then you say, well, this stuff is gonna be impacting us. Yeah, you better get in the game. All right, come on up, bro. There we go. Actually, bring the folks in line, have them stand right here at the podium, be a shorter walk. Say, all right, so we're going to take about, let's see, we got about 4 more minutes. So I'm going to take 5 more people. Step on up. Y'all just stand right over here with your question. What's your name? Where you from?
All right here from the city of Virginia Beach.
Cool. What's on your mind, Carl?
My question is to the candidates when it comes to the youth in the community, particularly the youth of color. What are some of your plans to engage them when it comes to help them with training and their jobs and that type of thing? Because one of the biggest problems we have with our youth here, Roland, is that kids don't have jobs, they don't have training, they don't have opportunities. So I wanted to know from the candidates, what are some of your plans to do that, particularly for youth of color?
All right, who wants to jump on that? I'm going to start calling on one of y'all. Y'all look at each other like, phone a friend? All right, here we go. I got you.
So look, I mean, I think some of it does go back to public education, making sure that we're actually engaging kids in curriculum, getting them excited about their future, showing them sort of what the world can look like. I had teachers like that, right, who saw potential in me even before I saw it in myself, and they said, you know, you should go and apply for this, that, or the other that I may not have seen. I also think there may be an opportunity to get some of the trades in high schools. These are good paying jobs. College may not be for everybody. But as we think about, you know, you have an aging workforce right now, especially in a lot of these trades, union groups, right? If we bring them earlier, spark that little bit of curiosity, we can get them into good paying jobs. So I think that might be part of the solution.
Oh, actually, and thanks for your question. I absolutely agree on the trade piece because one of the things that I often say when we talk about a lot of these jobs, and this is the hardest thing I think for a lot of people. I remember being in the meeting with then Vice President Joe Biden. We were talking about 4-year colleges, and he said, you know, a lot of parents, you don't hear them say, I want my child to go to X community college. Because what we've created in this country, we've created this whole dynamic of the big 4-year school. Well, here's the reality. 65 in America are actually trained through community colleges. So what we have is we have this very interesting dynamic where we would tell everybody, oh, you go to a 4-year school, and I got nothing against that, but we have to be honest, it's a lot of people who simply are not going to 4-year schools. The second thing is those jobs, plumbers, electricians, they can't be shipped to China. If your toilet gets stuck up, you can't phone nobody overseas and say how to unclog this top. And I'm telling you, and I had this conversation with a brother in Dallas. This brother was a master plumber. He owned 2 Rolls Royces. He lived in a mansion. And I was like, bruh, can we talk? And he said, listen, as a master plumber, he said, I make more than $200,000 a year. And he said, I know some lawyers that don't even make $50,000 a year. And so one of the things, we talk about those trades, and we also look at how the number of baby boomers who are retiring. you look at the available jobs, people talk about STEM, but there are basic jobs that will not be filled in the next 30 years because we're not filling them in now. For instance, one of the areas, nursing, is one of the largest areas where we are going to have a massive shortage in America. And so if funds are not being put there to get the next generation of nurses, we're going to have a healthcare crisis. So think about that. We're seeing a shortage of teachers and nurses in America, two of the most chronically underfunded positions. And we talk about first responders. Those are frontline workers who got to get supported. So come on up here with your question, Doc. What's your name?
I'm E. Ray Cox Jr. I'm the son of the founder of New Hope and the brother of Ryan Keith Cox. You asked the question to Don Scott. I would like to hear from the others and see if they'll give us that yes to you.
With regards to the funding the families are requesting for the victims of that mass shooting. All right? Yes? Yep. Yes? Yes. That's 3 yeses right there. See, I like it. That was short. Don, if you're watching, was quick, to the point. All right, come on up with a question. Let's see here. I'm going to take 2 more questions because we're almost out of time. Go ahead.
Yes, Sabrina Wooten. I serve in District 7, City Council member. And so on my way here, I was listening to a report about HBCUs and how they're lacking in funding. So we know when Governor Youngkin came in, there was certainly a big to-do about supporting HBCUs. Haven't heard a whole lot at this point. And we know HBCUs have always done more with less. So what can we do to make sure they get the funding that they need on a continuous basis and we're supporting them? Because we know they're taking a hit with the decision with affirmative action. And so we want to make sure we come alongside our HBUs, support them, make sure they get that continued support that they need.
What you're talking about is, who wants to answer that? What you're talking about is the Biden administration sent letters to a variety of states. There was a report done by Forbes based upon research that HBCUs are underfunded to the tune of $13 billion. And this phone is down. I'm going to see what, because I want to see what that number was for Virginia. But I know for Tennessee was $2 billion. And so it's very dependent upon the state. Yeah, that idea of HBCU funding for Virginia.
Absolutely, and thank you, Councilwoman. And that's a very important question and very close to my heart. Many of us in the audience and across the Commonwealth are graduates of HBCUs. We've seen historically the underfunding of HBCUs not only across the country, but in Virginia. When I was in the General Assembly under Governor Ralph Northam, we put some money in the budget. Unfortunately, that some of that was removed. A few capital projects and things. I was actually recently on the campus of both Virginia State and Norfolk State, and we took a tour of both campuses, and they showed me a lot of, buildings that they weren't able to redo because of the funding. So when I get back to the General Assembly, we're going to go in front of the Appropriations Committee. Hopefully they come down. I think they have been before, but particularly and specifically when we have the majority, I will fight for funding for our HBCUs.
So House Dems take control, then you can actually get that done. I got you. All right. Thank you very much. Come on. Last question here, because we are almost out of time. A little bit over, but I'll extend it real quick. What's your question? Name, question.
Hi, yes. My name is Ebony Wright, and I'm a Navy veteran. And I live in a community where there are a lot of veterans. I want to know, once you take over the House in November, what do you plan to do to make Virginia a state like Texas or Florida, where you reduce taxes on military retirement checks?
Anybody?
So one of the important things that will be coming up hopefully in the next session, there's actually a tax exemption right now that can help out widows or widowers here in Virginia that's not being taken care of because of Republicans. The reason is because that if a member commits suicide, that member's family is not authorized to have the tax exemption that should be given to them for their property tax or for their personal property or for their housing. So one of the bills I look forward to introducing next year is making sure that for our widowers and widows that tax exemption is authorized to them to put that money back into the pocket of those, especially who've been through something as traumatic as suicide.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Folks, we're going to be in Suffolk tomorrow, and so pull the graphic up. We're going to be there tomorrow in Suffolk broadcasting, so look forward to being there. Pull the graphic up. Let's see. We're going to be at the Balm Church East Campus, 523 East Washington Street, so looking forward to there. Tell all y'all friends we're going to be there, so we look forward to having a similar conversation tomorrow. I cannot implore you enough to meet those deadlines. Pull those deadlines up. Look at the various issues. And let me be perfectly clear. We partnered with the Virginia Democratic Caucus on this event. And I'll say this again, especially to you Republican trackers, y'all here. If any Republican wants to discuss any of these issues on my show, bring it. If y'all want to discuss education, black history, banning of books, expanding health care, if y'all want to discuss HBCU funding, any of y'all could come on my show. Let's see if you do. Y'all run a John Frederick show. I've done John Frederick show many times. John, call me. I will happily come and do your show and talk to your audience about any of these issues. Because mom and daddy didn't raise nobody who was scared. And so what I need everybody to understand out there, you're sitting at home and you can complain about what's happening in D.C., complain about what's happening in your state, in your county, in your city. But if you are checked out of this process, if you say, I'm not doing it, well, then all you're doing is just running your mouth on social media, complaining in barbershops and beauty salons, and doing nothing about it. There are regular and ordinary people who are out here putting it on the line, going to vote, doing what's necessary, and then holding politicians accountable after the election. That's what this is all about. So y'all know exactly where we stand, and so we're going to do 4 more of these in Virginia, tomorrow in Suffolk, and then we're going to be in 3 other places. We are going to be doing this across the country next year as well, because we want to hear from voters, and most importantly, we want people to understand that if you sit at home, then your power is staying at home. That simply cannot happen. And we have to maximize our vote the best that we can. And I can guarantee you, if black voters in this state are voting at 65, 70, and 75 and 80% of their capacity, then we will be talking about having the first black Speaker of the House in Virginia after November. So that can happen if folks make it happen. Let me thank New Hope Baptist Church. Let me thank the pastor, everybody for the involvement in this. Thank you so very much. Folks, don't forget, we're going to be at the Balm Church tomorrow in Suffolk. Look forward to having y'all out there. And lastly, be sure to always support us in what we do. Joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Pull the information up. You got it right there. Of course, you can see your check and money order, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support us as well by downloading the Black Star Network app. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV, and you can check us out on the 4 different FAST channel platforms. Of course, Amazon News. If you go to Amazon Fire TV, click that on. You can also tell Alexa, play news from the Black Star Network. Plex TV as well, and we just added Amazon Freebie and Amazon Prime Video, so you can click on Live TV, and we pulls up on the grid, and you'll see our news channel right next to ABC, NBC, and CBS. Folks, that is it from Virginia Beach, Suffolk. We're on the way tomorrow. Thanks a bunch. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Holla! All right, we're going to do a quick
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?